Now, he was a building contractor.
Right.
Did he do stonework and mason work?
I guess he did to a point. Now, he built that fireplace in the house out of stone and masonry work.
I remember you saying that.
You might want to look at that.
Yeah, I'd like to.
It's quite a, right from the ground up, it's all stone and masonry work with concrete shelving. It goes right up through to the ceiling, all stone work.
Well,
and he did some of that for other buildings around here. No, it was part of, I don't know how much masonry work he did outside of that, really. But I know in town here, he built a couple of camp-type homes and built the same type of fireplace. Built one down here in this cottage, and I know of another place he built that type of masonry fireplace. But the wall building, drywall building, I'm not too sure how much of that he did.
Yeah. Now, do you remember him?
Oh, definitely.
Did you work with him as a young person? Did you?
Not really. Basically, I picked it up. I worked after high school. I worked for a building contractor in Massachusetts. Mostly in Winchester, Massachusetts. And I used to do the lawn and in gardening work, new walks and concrete steps we used to put in. And I worked with an Irish person that was right over from Ireland.
Was he what they call stonemason there?
And he was kind of the stonemason, and would build stone walls in front of houses down there. And make a tree lawn along the road. It was quite popular down in that area. If you put a new house in, you leave about 20 feet from the road in, put a wall up or a shrubbery, and make a tree lawn separating the house from the road.
Oh.
Similar to what I have down front here. That's why I like that. And then, we built that.
You built that.
Well, I built that wall from scratch, really. And in the lawn out there was all brush and stuff. And I cleared all that out and made a lawn there to make it a tree lawn. That was quite a bunch of rubble down there.
So now the tree lawn is you have trees in front with the.
You have the road, and then you have grass, and then a wall with trees on it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and then you can plant along the wall. Now, in Massachusetts, they used to plant a lot of rose bushes,
Oh, yeah.
And peonies, I remember, it was quite popular. Rose bushes, peonies mixed right along the wall. They would come up onto the wall, and then back, you'd have a planting in back of perennials that you'd see from the house.
Here.
As best that I can, information I can get is that they probably, as they started farming the land, they would pick a certain amount of land that they could handle for a period of time and clear that.
Clear it.
And they would clear the rocks and build a wall to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And that might encompass 4 or 5 acres of land. And they'd probably outgrow the use of that. In other words, that land would get cleared, the stumps would probably get removed, and then they'd clear it. They'd do the same thing to another piece. And I guess cattle and sheep, after they cut the trees down.
So this would be like grazing land.
Right. They'd need a lot of grazing and pasture land because of the lack of fertilization. You'd need a lot of land to have grazing for the cattle. And also for the hay crops, too. See, back then there was very little fertilization, so the hay would only grow so high, and it'd take quite a bit of field to cut enough hay to keep the cattle. That's basically it.
But you told me you're doing something else. You're planting trees.
Right.
You're planting.
We planted over 50 acres of red pine.
And this will be a crop that'll be harvested by your grandchildren, right?
Right, definitely.
Or will it be even longer than that?
No, it'll be in the 40-year class now. I've had them in the ground for almost 15 years, so.
Oh.
40 years it'd be harvestable.
Now, how many acres did you say you did that?
We actually planted over 50 acres.
And how many trees is that?
About 50,000 trees.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Now
and I'll start thinning operations on those.
I was going to say you work with those.
Yeah, I'll be working those. In fact, I'm already pulling bottom branches off, but in probably another 5 years or more, we'll start thinning and selective cutting. Right, ones that have doubled and poor quality, start cutting those out, and they'll be marketable for pulpwood.
Oh. Now, when you do that, do you put more trees in?
No, just keep thinning until the stand has about 150, 200 trees to the acre. And then you let the stand go up into full-size lumber.
And then do you still selectively?
You could.
Or you could clear it and start again.
I would say when probably X years from now, when the trees are pretty good size, from about 400 trees to the acre, you would selective cut out those first, leaving the 200, and those would be lumber. Those 200 trees taken out from the 400, those would probably be cut for lumber. And you would cut the poorer quality out at that
first,
time.
yeah.
And then your final stand would be the real straight, tallest trees that promote the best lumber.
Now, we'll get back to the walls a little bit. You explained to me a little bit about the drywall.
Right.
And can we go over that again, how it started, and I mean, how you start doing it, and also the philosophy about it, why you use a drywall, say, versus one with concrete.
All right. Now, a drywall versus a masonry wall, that's out in self-standing wall, so to speak, or, a stone wall. The idea of a drywall is that the frost in Maine is definitely going to heave the ground, and it's going to heave the wall. And if you were to put in a concrete-filled wall, you'd have to put a full frost wall in, which I've seen done. And that means you have to go down 4 feet or better and put a solid concrete base in.
So that it doesn't work.
That's right. So when that frost won't break the base up. And then you could take and make any type of wall with masonry that you like. You could make your edges nice and straight and the top perfectly square and make a beautiful wall, no question about it.
Now,
the cost would be 3 or 4 times what a drywall would be.
See,
But I'm all the time looking at masonry walls that have been put up without proper drainage and this and that. You can see the cracks in them.
Yeah.
And then you can see them actually moving right out towards the road. Next years from now, they're going to have to be all broken up and taken down and be done.
Well,
right on loam. And generally, I dig down 4 to 6 inches, take the sod off. Lots of my jobs have it's a lawn, and you take the sod out. If, like my field down here, when I'm building a wall, I've cut out the field sod, 4 to 6 inches deep, leveled the ground out to a point, and loosened it. And then the first rocks that I set in are my base rocks, I call them. And they're the larger, flat stones with a fairly flat bottom, not a curved bottom. And then
larger ones, too.
The larger stones generally have to work with. I pick the best of them. And I take a hand scratcher and a cultivator, and I soften the ground, and I set the stone in with a straight edge out. I like to get a nice straight edge started.
In the first one,
and set the stone down, and if it rocks, I dig out the spots and rock it back and forth until when the rock is sitting on the ground, it's fairly stable. It doesn't rock around much. And also, if I can, I like to tilt the rock so that the top surface is tilted in and not out. In other words, the rocks that go on top will tend to slide to the center of the wall. That's really important.
Fall out.
I wouldn't put a base rock on that had a curved surface or a surface on top that curved outward, so that the stones going on top of that would tend to fall off. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to have an outside flat surface to make your wall straight, and the bottom has to be pretty flat. The top has to also be conducive to building on top of it. So you can take quite a bit of time looking around for your good base rocks.
You need a big source to, you need a big pile of rocks.
That's right, to pick from. Let's say I'm building a 100-foot wall, I'll build 10 or 15 feet of base, and then I'll come back and start building on that. And to a height where I have to build more base to lend to building more wall. So eventually I might have, let's say, 20 feet of wall built in the first 3 or 4 feet is finished wall.
Okay.
And she's all tiered down to my base rock.
The base, and then you extend it.
And I just keep going till I finish.
Yeah.
That's why I do it differently.
Yeah.
I like to get going,
Yeah, and see that you actually some of the...
Right, and after I've done this a while, and I get forced into putting more base rocks in, and I'll go ahead. And I won't use any of my good base rocks in my wall building. If I come across one...
You'll save it.
I'll save it, say, hey, that's going up the road here for a base rock. And I won't put it into the wall, on my general wall building. But most of the time, you get a load of stone. I just did that job in Unity. I had 10 tons of stone. I used 8 of it. I actually planned on using about 8, so it came out about right. And the 2 ton I didn't use, I had to pick from. You know, when I put the base rocks in, out of 10 ton of stone building that wall, I used about the last good base rock I could find. You know, I'd had to scrub to find a few more.
When you worked in Massachusetts, and you worked with, you remember that man's name?
Woolsey.
Well,
He contracted new houses all over Winchester. And at the time, he was building expensive homes. And last I heard, he had gone to Florida.
Oh.
He was building down there.
Oh, he's building there?
Yeah.
You usually work alone when you're doing this?
Yeah, I have. I've had some assistance. And generally speaking, about the most I can stand is someone, if the stones are dumped in a pile down, you know, away from my wall site. I've had good assistance, and someone, I've got a stone dolly, 2 big wheels, or a wheelbarrow, and the person that helps can put the stones wall side for me. And I could give information out, like I need some more larger stones, or I could point out a couple of base rocks that they could put wall side for me, or site, you know.
Oh, I see.
Site. But I've never had any real. I've really tried to prentice someone to put stones where I'd like them put, so I'd be satisfied.
See, I remember.
Most of the work that I do, you have to be satisfied with the general stone wall that's been taken down and transferred that you're building with. And your only choice would be to, for color, and I do it quite often, is to try to put the surface out that was out before, which is gray, maybe some moss on it.
Oh.
And then if the stone lends to the shape of going into the wall, you could do that, you know, like it's got a fairly flat surface where the moss was.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it leads to the fact that you're building with a taper in and whatever.
Oh,
in fact, the wall I just built up in Unity, I got a lot of the old surface stones out, so the moss was all showing, and it really looked.
So it didn't look brand new?
It didn't look too new. And the wall I built in East Vassarboro, one of the comments was by a lot of people, it's like, my God, you'd think that wall has always been there because of the amount of great stone to the outside edge.
Oh, I see.
But I have built walls out of stone that were in the woods more and shaded, were a little gray to them, you know, and they look brown. And now that wall down front here was all dug out of the ground, and when that was built about 20 some odd years ago, most of those stones look very light colored.
Oh.
And now they're all just a nice gray, and they've actually aged and all look the same in that 20 years. So it doesn't take forever to have them age back, get that old stone look, but it does take a period of time. No, the older walls that are here, there's some in the backwoods that are real nice shape. You know, they have a nice structure similar to what I do to a point. But, you see, they were faced with a point of, when they cleared the fields, they'd use the stone that was available.
Sure.
And you'll see a section of wall that's smaller rocks. And stacked up pretty nicely. You know, they built pretty flat edges, and they'd build it with some care to stay up. And then you'll see a complete difference right there. You know that was a couple of years went by or something.
And somebody else came along.
Well, and then they'd clear another piece of land or something. And then you'd start seeing a lot of large rocks. And, you know, the wall would be structured as well. You know, big rocks kind of piled on top of each other. I can show you this. It's interesting. You know? And, in fact, my son won't let me take some of the better walls because he's pretty flat edges, and they'd build it with some care to stay up. And then you'll see a complete difference right there. You know that was a couple of years went by or something.
And somebody else came along.
Well, and then they'd clear another piece of land or something. And then you'd start seeing a lot of large rocks. And, you know, the wall would be structured as well. You know, big rocks kind of piled on top of each other. I can show you this. It's interesting. You know? And, in fact, my son won't let me take some of the better walls because I start talking, you know, even when I build around here. No, don't take that wall. Let's get some out of this other one that's just falling down more.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So you can use that.
Yeah, right. I've got a couple of spots picked out, you know, if I need more rocks to build here, I can use, without dismantling some of the better-looking walls in the woods.
Yeah.
Well, you're handling something like to build that small wall around that sign. You know, you're handling 16 ton of stone in 2 days, so
Do you ever have some that you can't lift yourself, that you have to have
Well,
help with? Or you said something about a dolly or something?
Yeah, I have a wheel dolly. Now, when I built the wall in Augusta, I tried to get the people delivering the stones at the time to put stones on that I could handle myself.
Yeah.
But they had a crew of people loading stones, and I got a lot of stones that one person couldn't pick up. So, you'd have to push them onto the wheel dolly that I had.
And then move them
and then roll them off and into and use them definitely for base rock.
For the base rock. Well, that's something we haven't talked about, but you mentioned it before, that it has to slant.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, what happens if it doesn't slant? It just falls apart?
Yeah, if you build a wall, drywall, that's the sides are too straight, even if you try to slant your weight, have the angle of the stones to the inside.
Yeah.
Very little movement, frost movement, will start to push the center up and spread your wall on the top. And your wall is going to eventually start tumbling over.
Mm.
And of course, when I watch other people build walls, that's what I'm looking for. If they don't build enough slant, to myself, I'll say, it's nice to look at right now, but what's going to happen 2 or 3 years from now? You're going to find that the wall is starting to come down.
Okay, now when you're...
Generally speaking, when I cut the sod, if I want a real straight wall, I'll take a string and I'll run a straight line and cut the sod out to that line.
So that's your guide.
Yeah, and then I'll have a trench. In other words, it's say 36 inches wide, the shape of the wall, the base of the wall. And I generally stand next to the wall, and I gauge from the side of my leg to the wall.
Okay, so you got a little
bit. Yeah. And as I go higher, that distance is going to increase.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, and and you get used to full height to the wall when you're standing there. There's going to be a certain distance from the side of you over, and then my height of my pocket is generally a 3-foot wall.
Okay, so you got. Now I heard the term yesterday called riprap.
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, that's piling stone for an embankment to most of the time to cut down an erosion, either along the edge of a pond or say a highway. And that is just actually laying stone onto the soil to keep an embankment. They call that a riprap wall. You get a nice stone that's kind of flat on 2 sides, and you see a spot where cheapers like that could be an outside edge here and an outside edge here.
Very good.
And you put that right across, and you tell yourself, well, that's going to be a good binder stone.
I was going to say, would that make the wall more secure?
Right, and very often I'm looking for stones that have a long leg to them with a little flat surface on the end.
Uh-huh.
And if I see a little notch, I'll put the small end out and run the length of the stone across the center of the wall to give it strength.
Oh.
And I'm always looking for that type of situation where I can put these stones across into the wall to bind the wall up. And then you're telling yourself, well, these binder stones, well, that wall isn't going to come down. If you have that type of stone,
yeah.
You're building, you have that in mind all the time, that you're trying to build something that's going to last by putting in binder stones and filling rocks in and lapping one stone over another. Well, I say some of the walls I can think of where I had a real nice choice of stones to build. I know that wall's going to
be there
for a long time and not change in looks. It's going to stay.
Now,
you've got to start looking at finishing the wall off. That's another critical point you come to. And if you're trying to end up with a nice flat surface, which I like to try to do.
For the top.
As you get near the top, you have a nice spot. You might get a nice rock that has some size to it, and you set it up there, and that stone becomes your top.
Okay, and then you match.
And then you can match down the wall. In other words, a few high spots to get your height. And then you're starting to look for stones that might have some size to them. That's a flat top of the wall, and looks nice. It's nice.
Fits in
well, and then you fill in around that. See those stones? There's a lot more flatter ones there, isn't there, than my wall at home?
Yeah.
See the side edges?
So you had a chance to
see a lot flatter stone. And on the end, I didn't mention that on this, but see the end is. These are real hard to come by, these end stones.
Because you've got to have two.
They've got to be square.
Right angles there.
So when I'm building a wall, I have that other end to do. if I see a nice cornerstone, I'll throw that aside. I don't want to use that up in here somewhere.
Yeah.
And then if you can do this, see how that goes right across the whole wall?
Oh, yeah, and that's what you're talking about, a
That's
binder
right,
stone.
right, that's right. And see, that's a tremendous binder right down here in the base.
And see, you've got some of the moss, like you were
that's right.
saying.
See, there's moss showing here, and so now that gives you a wall, the appearance of being here. Well, see, here's your larger stone. See, all on the bottom I set in, right here. Those are your base rocks. And see, they'll end to a flat, straight surface here. That's what you're looking for, you know.
Now
And then your second, if you watch now, your stones are getting a little smaller as you go up, right? I'll get some big ones in here, but now they're landing off here. Now, the other point I was making is when you get near the top, so you'll see how these, to get your surface and your height, you've got to you got to get a little fussy about this area here, right? To end off saying you're going to get a few in here and get your surface flat.
see, it looks so solid and so secure, and yet there's no mortar, there's nothing
That's
holding
right.
it. It's like fitting a jigsaw puzzle
Well,
together.
you get to this point, you know, it's got to, and then you're lapping over. You try not to get too many seams, you know. You want to lap over here and you know, and lap, and try to keep lapping over as much as you can. You didn't want to cut the tree down. Take a look.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
And can you peek over? This was quite a...
Oh, I see what you did. You made it.
And I looked for stones with curves in them even here. I got a couple of real nice ones.
Yeah, see it.
Bottom away had a perfect curve there.
Oh, look at that. Now would you ever cut a stone?
No, I never have. No, that's... And down here, see the ground dropped off to keep the wall a nice, even...
Okay.
I had to build a lot higher wall.
Mm-hmm.
Down here, getting along to 4 feet high.
See, now your measure's not going to work here.
No, that went out the window right there.
See, what we're talking about.
Because a wall in Augusta is 95% stone like that. And all the stones come out of Belgrade. And I'll tell you, that was a challenge. Because they didn't lend to building like this, these sandstones, you know.
Yeah.
It was all building a wall with this type of stone. So when you get a void, it was a lot harder to fill it.
You've got to find another one like that to turn it upside down.
Curve on it.
Really hard to tie it together, too.
Oh, yeah, it was a son of a gun. After I got through with that, I said, I don't know.
You want to do that again.
Oh, yeah.
But a granite wall is going to look great,
But
though.
let's say the whole wall looks like this, all granite, and it's got a gray, this look here to it, you know, with a white showing like this, and yeah, it really looked nice. But these stones, when I get going on it, you know, when you start putting these in, went together nice.
Now,
Really
these are granite. I know those. What is this, for instance? What kind of stone is
It's a
this?
type of glacial sandstone. That this wall, of course, it's not in the sun here quite, but see that wall I have down on my road there is under those oak trees in the shade, and that's lending to the darkening up. In the sun here, this back side now, on the north side, probably keep moss and darken a lot faster than this side here that's in the sun, I would think. Yeah, we buy them, right now we're up to $65 a ton we're paying for these. Or the person is, depends who's buying them.
Yeah.
So, at $65 a ton, there was 30 ton in here, there's a few dollars tied up in logs. Well, see, when he delivered some of these nice big flat ones, actually too big to put in the wall. And I had them aside there, and this person saw them, gee, I've been thinking I'd like a rock made out of natural stone. I said, hey, you get some more, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
See, I love this.
yeah,
I always
it's pretty rough. But, it's not a bad looking one.
No, it's a fine one.
See, there's a couple of big flat ones here. I think he was eventually, he was going to plant some kind of I forget what it was called. It was growing between stones.
A chamomile.
Yeah. I have my wall on Augusta. I carved my initials in it.
Oh,
I was
good.
thinking of doing that here, but I haven't done it yet. One of the base rocks here.
Yeah, you should do that.
Yeah.